Hello, this is Maragadam, Department of Information Technology here. So this is the third session on deep learning networks. Okay, in this session we are going to discuss about what is a biological neuron, mathematical model of a biological neuron which is otherwise called as a perceptron, commonly used terminologies in neural networks, what can a perceptron do, linearly separable regions, and also the solving problems with single perceptron. And finally, we are going to discuss about non-linear problems. Let's see about the biological neuron. The brain is principally composed of about 10 billion neurons. Each neuron is connected to about 10,000 other neurons. So the dendrites over here are called input channels and the axons are the output channel of a neuron. Each neuron receives the electrochemical inputs from the other neurons at the dendrites. If the sum of these electrical inputs is sufficiently powerful to activate the neuron, it transmits an electrochemical signal along the axon, which is called as an output channel, and this signal is passed to the other neurons. It is important to note that a neuron fires only if the total signal received at the cell body exceeds a certain level. So, our entire brain is composed of interconnected electrochemical transmitting neurons. From a very large number of extremely simple processing units, the brain manages to perform extremely complex tasks. So, this is the model on which artificial neural networks are based. Fine. The next topic is perceptron. Now, what is perceptron? The perceptron is a mathematical model of a biological neuron. While in actual neurons, the dendrite receives the electrical signals from the axons to other neurons. In the perceptron, these electrical signals are represented as numerical values. At the synapses, that is a junction between the dendrites and the axon, the electrical signals are modulated in various amounts. Hence, it is represented in perceptron by multiplying each value by a value called weight. An actual neuron fires an output signal only when the total strength of the input signal exceeds a certain threshold. So we model this phenomenon in a perceptron by calculating the weighted sum of the inputs to represent the total strength of the input signals and applying a step function on the sum to determine its output. As in the biological neuron, this output is fed to the other perceptrons. Fine. Whatever we have discussed in the earlier slide is given in the form of diagrammatic representation here. The dendrites of the biological neuron is compared to that of the input channels of a perceptron. The nucleus of a biological neuron is compared to that of the summation function, activation function, and of course the bias. And the axon of a biological neuron is compared to that of the output channel of a perceptron. Now let's see the commonly used terminologies in neural networks. The input vector, the weight vector. Let's see the first one, the input vector. All the input values of each perceptron are collectively called the input vector of that perceptron. Then what is the weight vector? All the weight values of each perceptron are collectively called the weight vector of that perceptron. So let's see what a perceptron can do. A perceptron, it computes the weighted sum of the input values. Assume that there are two input values, small x and small y, for a certain perceptron capital P. Let the weights of this x and y be capital A and capital B. The weighted sum could be represented as ax plus by. Since a perceptron outputs a non-zero value only when the weighted sum exceeds a certain threshold C, the output of the perceptron can be represented as follows. That is, output of perceptron P is equal to 1 if ax plus by is greater than C. The output of the perceptron is equal to 0 if ax plus by is less than or equal to C. Now, let us assume that we have been given with a xy plane and there are two regions, ax plus by greater than c and ax plus by less than c, and these two regions are separated by a line called ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. And further, we have been given with an point x comma y. The perceptron is able to tell us to which region on the plane the respective points belongs to. Such regions, since they are separated by a line, are called linearly separable regions. Now, a few add-ons to this topic, linearly separable regions. The logic functions such as and, or, not operators are generally linearly separable. That means they can be easily carried out with the help of a single perceptron. Let us discuss this with the help of an example. Consider the given graph. The two axes over here are the inputs, which can take the values either 0 or 1. The numbers on the graph are the expected output for a particular input. Using an appropriate weight vectors for each case, a single perceptron can perform all of these functions. So the next topic is non-linearly separable. Not all logic operations are linearly separable. That is, XOR operator is not linearly separable and cannot be achieved by a single perceptron. But then this problem can be solved by using more than one perceptron. The conclusion here is that it is impossible to draw a line to divide the regions containing either 0 or 1 in the XOR function. Why? Because the output is not linearly separable. So whatever we have explained in the earlier slides, it is just shown here as a simple example. The and or operator using a single straight line for differentiating among the points which are being plotted in the xy plane. And that is not the case with respect to that of your XOR operator, wherein you may in need of more than one perceptron. So that is what this diagram says. So the next will be the continuation of ML basics. Few more topics pending in the first unit will be dealt in the forthcoming sessions.